Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just one moment with our webinar, the Crossing the Chasm webinar series, What Your Partners Really, Really Want. We'll get started in just one moment. We're excited to have all of you here today, just giving everybody a chance to log in to the webinar. We have a number of people that from all over the world who are on our webinar today. It is the top of the hour, and we always like to get started on time. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm Laura Steward, and I am your host for the webinar today. I am the Director of Online Channel Events for SaaSMAX. I'm a former MSP, and I'm so excited to be here representing SaaSMAX PartnerOptimizer for this incredible webinar, exclusive webinar that we're offering to you today to talk about what your partners really, really want. And as a former MSP, I know that one of the biggest concerns I always had was, do my channel vendors even know what I do and what I need and how I need to interact with my customers? So in order to make sure that you get the right information, I'm excited to bring John Mamon on the show today. He is here, CEO of mPowered IT. He is a serial entrepreneur and MSP, and he's based in the Atlanta area. John, if you can pop on your webcam, and let's just have a lot of fun today and answer all the questions that everybody has. We're excited to be here. And John, are you able to come on to the web?
It's one moment, please.
Okay, not a problem. I always love it when us tech people.
Yeah, and where's a good IT person when you need them?
Exactly. Well, in the meantime, let's talk about John. He is the author, in addition to being CEO over 25 years in experience in the IT realm. John is also the author of this incredible book called The Extra Scoop. And the reason I'm showing you my iPad version is my copy has disappeared from my bookcase. It was loaned to somebody and they didn't return it to me. The Extra Scoop is an incredible book on rediscovering the art of customer service. And for anybody who has not read that book, it is available wherever books are sold. And I know that, John, you can offer bulk sales as well, and you speak to organizations. But in the meantime, we're going to give people a little bit of an idea of exactly what you as an MSP owner really needs and how your channel vendors can improve their customer service to you. So thanks for being here with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Welcome to everyone who's here and joined us today. Hope you get a lot of value from our discussion.
All right, so let's dive right in. What do you really, really need? I mean, it sounds simple, but you know, in this last year or longer, things have changed. We've reached kind of a tipping point in what the channel partners really need, your business really needs, and what your clients really need. What does that look like for you now, and where do you see that going in the future?
Well, that's a great question. I think things obviously are changing. You know, we live in a dynamic world. We work in a dynamic world in terms of technology. What's really important for us, or I'll say even just speaking for myself, as a service provider, is really having an end-to-end great experience with our partners, right? And that means I like to kind of carve it up into offense and defense, right? So offense being generating revenue, sales, defense being providing great service, delivering on what you're selling. So, you know, for me, it's having that end-to-end experience with my partner. A lot of times, you know, there's a lot of great products out there. There's a lot of great services that are offered for service providers like us, but not all of them provide that end-to-end experience, I would say. So, and great customer service. So that's what, you know, we're always looking for. A lot of people reach out to us on a regular basis and ask us to represent their product or service. And they don't always have that, all the pieces and parts in place that I would require in order to actually work with an organization. So, but there are some out there that are really, really great. And so we're always looking for that end-to-end experience for strategic partnerships that are helping us, look forward, what's coming next, how do we continue to advance and grow our organizations together as a team. I would say that's really what we're looking for.
It's interesting that you talked about that whole end-to-end experience.
Mm-hmm.
When we were prepping for this webinar, one of the things you talked about were a number of sports analogies, which thankfully my dad raised me to speak sports. And I
I'll
do
try
enjoy
to keep them to a minimum.
No. End-to-end experience looks different for a lot of different people. Some vendors feel that the end of the experience is we just sign you up and then you're kind of done. And I get that what you're talking about on your end-to-end experience and what we've done in some of our other webinars, there's more to it than that. Can you describe what a successful relationship looks like for you in this new way of thinking about end-to-end relationship?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So, I would say very much like the customers that we are hunting and going after, right? They're if they're in the sweet spot for service providers, they're getting, bombarded with regular phone calls, about, hey, we use us as for your MSP, as your MSP. So they're getting lots of calls every day, and it's a matter of, catching them at the right time, and of course, how you're differentiating. And it's no different for me as an owner of the company. I am regularly and conservatively, I would say I probably reached out to in the 7 to 10 times a week from people who want us to represent their product or service. And I will usually entertain, if we're not already working with somebody in that particular area, I will usually entertain the discussion with the qualifications of that end-to-end experience. So for us, for me, I'll say that personally, and because I am so passionate, obviously, having written a book about delivering a great customer experience, we tout ourselves as an end-to-end provider, so that's what we expect on the relationship side too. So what I don't need, and that's the easy place to start, what I don't need is, I don't need another club in my bag, right? I don't need yet another thing to put on my line card, yet another thing for somebody to choose from. That's what I don't need, right? What I truly need when we talk about end to end, we need a partner who has a vested interest in helping us grow together, not necessarily.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I was going to say not necessarily compete with us for market share, but literally, pulling back the covers and coming up with a strategic marketing plan, helping us, with demand generation and lead generation. 80% or 90%, whatever the number is. I usually use 80% of the service providers out there that do what we do. They're going to be of the smaller variety. They don't have sales all figured out. A lot of times it is an engineer that's the manager of the company and it's trying to grow it, and they don't understand SEO. They don't understand, how to build a sales group, things like that. And, of course, you have the 20% that do, but the vast majority need help doing that, right? And we're no different. I have run sales organizations. I've built another MSP previously, so I do understand it, but yet still, you can get single-threaded, meaning that you really need the help doing demand gen and lead generation so that you can actually, execute on with the clubs in your bag and actually get more logos, as we used to say, get more customers in the door. So that's where it starts, is really, here's the product or service that we're offering. Here's how we go to market. Here's how the kinds of people who are buying it, and here's what we're going to do together in terms of a campaign to get this off the ground, right? To dive a little bit further on that, we had a really great relationship with a hosting provider, or we do have, excuse me, with a hosting provider. And we kind of narrowed down and to do a campaign on backup and disaster recovery. And so when we were talking about getting into the relationship together, one of my qualifying questions is how are you going to help me to get your product out to market, to get more customers from it for us as well? And we literally, this particular company, the representative was one of the people, one of the first people who actually said, hey, let's put a campaign together, and we're going to give you the funds to execute it, and so that we can start building. And my commitment was that as we were closing those customers, we would turn around and reinvest, the percentage of the funds back into additional campaigns to get more revenue together. So that was a great example of having that offense, kick-started together in that relationship.
I just ran a couple of polls while you were talking, and the first poll was, do you know what your partners need from you? And I thought it was interesting that 60% were uncertain as to what their partners really need. Why do you think that is, that they don't know what they need? I mean, does anybody ever ask you what you really need, or they just assume that their business goals are your business goals?
I don't get the question often. I really don't. Those 7 to 10 reach outs that I get on a weekly basis, they're, I'll get something, it'll go something like this. Hey, connect with me on the LinkedIn one. I get calls too, but hey, connect with me, and if it looks interesting, I'll connect. And the next thing is, hey, can we set up a call so I can show you my product and you can sell it for us, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. And, I usually will ask some questions back, like, does your company do demand generation and lead generation to help new partners? As one of the basic questions. And then I'll usually get a negative on that, and that's the end of the conversation. I think that, my suspicion is that a lot of the representatives that are responsible for helping build the channel out are just reaching out to as many people as they can, and trying to get as many partners in, being the strength in numbers mentality, trying to get as many partners signed up as they can, with no real notion of how they're going to be able to help those partners and what those partners could bring to the table for them besides, the handful of customers they might have. So that'd be my suspicion as to why they may not know.
All right, which kind of blends with the second poll that you and I had set up. And I'm sharing that to the screen again right now. This whole idea of what level of customer service are they providing? Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting, the split, 22% the basics, 22% newsletters, 22% were not even sure what that means for customer service to the partner. And 33% say that they're doing strategic calls to help partners penetrate their market. Now, that last one, I'd like to talk about some more, because even in your book, which isn't just to the tech industry, where you talk about that extra scoop of customer service, I think there's a difference in what you as an MSP, as somebody that's frontline with customers selling these different solutions, thinks is a strategic call, and what the vendor thinks is a strategic call. Mm-hmm. So can you go into that some more and clarify, because some people are asking some questions around that when you mentioned it as well. What does that really, truly, deeply look like? And is it a one-time thing?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for the questions that are coming in, and again, I like to always illustrate what I'm talking about by saying what I'm not talking about, right? So I'll occasionally get on a call and with somebody who wants us to position their product or services and or integrate it into our tech stack. And I'll ask the question. So do you do demand and lead generation? Do you how do you help me get more customers? How do you help me penetrate the market with your services? And very often, most of the time there's well, I shouldn't say most of the time, half the time it's, well, we don't really do that. The other half the time is, oh, well, we give you a library of marketing material that you can co-brand. Well, that's not, that's not helping me, right? That's just creating work for me and giving me another club in the bag, right? What I'm talking about is, being on, regular calls together. Again, developing that, that first call, developing a strategy as a team together, how we're going to get the first 10 customers, or how we're going to get, and how we're going to go from 10 and how we're going to go to 50, together as a team. What campaigns are we going to do? What are we going to launch together? What resources does each party bring to the table to penetrate the market and get those services out there? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all really interested in, right? We're all interested in more revenue and more customers, and of course delivering on the services that we provide. That's the defense, which we haven't even started to talk about yet, but that's what we're all after. And so there should be a lot of attention put on that, and coming up with those strategic plans and talking regularly about how you're executing to make it happen. That to me is a real strategic partner, an end-to-end partner, that's helping us grow.
Okay, you mentioned defense, and this offense defense approach to relationship with channel partners is something really near and dear to my heart, because I limited the number, when I had my MSP, the number of vendors that I did business with. And I really needed somebody, as you talked about, to be an end-to-end. I didn't want to be one of 10,000 that they were just, their model was acquire partners and then kind of forget they ever exist. I wanted to work with the one that wanted to help me grow my business while helping grow their business, and was willing to commit something to help me do that, whether it was serious lead gen, not just cold calling, but helping me build those funnels for myself and providing that. Go into this idea of offense defense that you were starting to talk about.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit already about offense and the acquisition of new customers, going out and building revenue, but there is a defensive component to this that we haven't really touched on, and that's the customer support experience, right? So once they are a customer, what's their experience with the product or service? If there's a problem, how are we working together to help them? And of course, in almost every case, at least, and again, in the MSP model, we're on the front lines doing everything we can. But when we need help, what kind of support are we getting? Are we going into an endless queue of we're now transferring you to 7 times down the list before you actually can get somebody on the phone? We had
and 1 hour in the queue while you're sitting in front of a customer who's down.
Right. So our number one core value is to deliver a great experience to everybody we deal with. We're talking about that specifically from a customer perspective, right? The experience we have with our partners who are helping us with these services and products translate to the experience that our customers get. So I personally am very particular about the people that are playing good defense, because once we get the customer, we don't want to lose them ever, right? Retention is the name of the game. So we want them to have a great experience, and if we're not having one with the partner, that means they're not going to have one either. So there's some of those kind of relationships we can't control, and typically an ISP would be an example of that. And when our customers are having a problem, we shouldn't be stuck in a queue for 90 minutes to try to just to get somebody on the phone to be told okay, we'll roll a truck tomorrow, or something to that effect. So, a better example might be a product that we had been pushing to our customers. We had become partners, but some of the challenges with that software product became apparent after the fact, right? The margins were already kind of low from an MSP perspective, but the product would routinely have problems. Their invoicing methodology was, there was a separate invoice for every customer that you closed, which made absolutely no sense. And then when we had a problem, it took a long time to get somebody on the phone. And that's just all the defense. We won't even talk about the offensive side. So that's an example of poor defense, right? And we're in the process of transitioning away from that partner at this point for those reasons.
It sounds like, in your experience, that there are a number of times you're approached where that constant bombardment of email, of phones, of even direct mail pieces comes in, and they're like, do business with us, do business with us. And they only have one side of the equation. From everything you've talked about so far today, the majority of the channel vendors, the channel partners that you deal with, are only looking at the offense side. The ones that you truly grow with are the ones that go, okay, now we've gotten somebody to sign, and how are we going to serve them? How are we going to, as your book talks about, provide this extra scoop, which is the defensive side, to manage, maintain, create that relationship? But it's not something that a number of vendors are used to, John. I think some of it's because they're still not comfortable. And forgive me, those who are listening, if you don't agree with me with the word comfortable, but I think that a number of channel vendors are not comfortable yet with something besides a reseller who's just selling a thing, a license, and is not in there building relationships and becoming a trusted advisor. Do you see an issue with that as you're interacting?
Yeah, I would take a second to say, I think that there's a percentage, whatever the percentage is, there's a percentage of channel providers that don't have either side of the wall figured out, right? They're just, they have a product and they're trying to push it out as fast as they can, and they may not have, really great service on the backside. They've got a great product and that's about it. And they certainly aren't doing anything on the offensive side. There's another percentage and that I would say this is the larger percentage, in fact, that do play pretty good defense. And by that, I mean, just having that support mechanism, having a single point of contact for the relationship, having the basics in terms of, when you have a problem, you're going to get priority because you're, a platinum partner or whatever the terminology is. So I do think there's a larger percentage that don't have, or that do have the defensive side, largely figured out. The lowest percentage is the ones on the offensive side that they don't have that figured out. They do not. They either have, perhaps they've had a direct sales model and they're just getting into building the channel, and that can very often get in the way of really being able to play offense with their new partners. It may be that, hey, we've got the great product, we've got the great support, but we're expecting you to be the people, our feet in the street doing the selling. So we haven't put any, we haven't come up with an MDF program. We haven't come up with ways to strategize and help partners, grow their businesses. That is the smallest of the percentages on that side. And so, that's where I think there needs to be focus. And our best relationships with our best partners are almost always, playing offense and defense great. I don't know if I answered your question there, but I thought that was an important distinction.
It is a very important distinction. And you also raised this question that I know personally you'd probably love to address, and you didn't dive into it. The whole direct versus channel versus combined model. How does that impact you when you are considering adding on a vendor? or a product or a service and how you interact with your client base?
Yeah, I mean, it can pose a problem. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the world necessarily. It's not an immediate, check the box. Sorry, we can't work together because you have a direct model too. But I think it creates complications. I mean, if you've got a person dedicated to, we're in the Atlanta market largely. If you have a person that's dedicated to dialing the Atlanta market and dialing all these small businesses to take your XYZ product or use your XYZ product, well, that's going to create a problem when we're doing the same thing. So, or you're asking us to do the same thing. To me, the better approach is to say, hey, we've got a direct we have direct people, but they are incented to work with partners rather than be lone wolves and just go out and get the sales on their own. And that if you're working together with a direct team, that makes a lot more sense. There's an argument to be made to being 100% channel. That's a discussion topic probably all by itself for a show at another time, but there is an argument for that, and in doing so, you're able to dedicate resources to the partner channel to help them develop and grow and represent your product and service.
We've got a number of people that have put in a question very similar. So I think we need to dive a little deeper into something that you had spoken about towards the beginning, John.
Okay.
Some people are asking for some specifics about the end-to-end experience and where partners don't have it together. They want less general and more specific. So can you give an example around that where it was not? Okay.
Yeah, so I gave an example of this, the partner where we sat together, and I basically came out of the box saying, look, I don't need another hosting partner. I don't need another club in my bag. What can we do together? What can we bring to the table? What is a value that we can do together for it to make sense for us to work together? And we spent a good bit of time determining what services we wanted to drive. We came up with a strategic plan to essentially a mini marketing plan, right? A campaign that we assembled together. They literally brought to the table a marketing agency to put everything together that we compiled. I lent my feedback to what I felt the messaging should be. I was a part of determining the direct mail media and how that looked. And so we worked together and developed this campaign. They paid the costs of the marketing agency and putting all that together and even doing the mail. And our job was specifically to follow up with every one of those people that we reached out to try to position and further those services in. And so that's an example of the front side of how that's a specific that we did together. Other specifics could include having regular monthly or every other month calls to talk about how the product's being positioned, what other resources are available, what spiffs might be out there, what can we take to market for the customers? Here's another great example of on the offensive side. When with the whole COVID situation, I reached out to our partners and I said, what can we do for people? What can we offer them right now to help them, right? And there were two or three different partners specifically that said, hey, let's give them 6 months, no charge. Right. So basically what we did was we agreed together. They were going to, give up 3 months. We'd give up 3 months so we could go to market and say, hey, this is free for 6 months, to help you out during this. Here you go. So we had a few partners that stepped up and did that. And so that's another example of like a strategic, here's what we can do together to get it out there.
What was the response from your client base when you went like that? When you
They were, and you know, we did it not just for our client base, but for, you know, a select target audience. But the you know, the customer base was very thankful for the opportunity. You know, some of them said, "Hey, I think we're all set here. Thank you so much." But there were others that said, "Hey, we'll take you up on it." And you know, they in one case, right after the 3-month mark, they said, "Hey, we love this. We want to stay on." There was a handful of customers that did that. So it was very positive. I mean, they were appreciative just of, you know, the opportunity to do something and maybe lower their costs, if you will, you know, for a period of time, given the circumstances with COVID. So.
We're going to switch into Q&A, everybody, because there are so many questions coming in rather than just continuing to go with some of the thoughts that we originally had. I think these are really good questions. If you have additional questions, everybody, please type them in the question pane. John will be answering them as we go about. I find it interesting that a number of the questions that are coming in, John, are around this whole idea of what is customer service and how does customer service internally and externally shift or change, or should it not? And I might need to expand on that question a little bit because it sounded confusing in my own head. When partners are working with you, there's two aspects. You talked about the offensive and the defensive and the clubs in the bag and all of that. Have you seen that the most effective relationships you've had are ones where what they're trying to help you with is something that is a belief structure, a very strong belief structure inside their own companies that empower that level of customer service, or are they two separate things? And that's something that's coming up quite a bit in the questions.
Yeah, I love that. I think you've really hit on something, to be honest. You know, I think that I'm always looking for shared core values, right? And so if our number one core value is to create a great experience with everybody we deal with, which, by the way, we don't confine that just to customers. That's, you know, for our internal people, and it is for our certainly for our vendors and partners as well. So, you know, if there's a shared core value or belief system, you know, I think you're gonna find that you're gonna work great together, right? And so, hey, we're trying to deliver a great experience as a channel partner. How do we do that for the MSPs out there, as an example? How do we create a great experience for them? And if you're thinking with that mindset, then, you know, you of course have to think about it holistically, right? Because it's not just about, you know, answering the phone live when there's a service issue. It is truly about, you know, the entire experience together. You know, we don't want to get into any relationship to sell one of something, right? We want to get into a relationship that is going to provide a great experience for our customers. Our team is going to have a great experience working with it, and the partner support staff, and we're going to be able to use it as a mechanism to grow the company and our revenues. And that's really that value system sort of drives all of those things, you know. So you find, you know, it's kind of, you know, if I think about the partners that we've had a lot of success with, and we have that experience with them, they have that same belief system.
In your book, and I know that this is not a question that's come in from people, but in your book with the title, The Extra Scoop, can you just describe what that extra scoop is and what you mean by that? Because I think it's really important to this entire conversation. You've alluded to it in the last answer you just gave and a few other things, but what really is the extra scoop that partners can do? Yeah,
so the extra scoop, and there's a section of the book that talks about how we kind of got to that name. But it is, and actually I'll just tell the story very quickly. I was really early in my career, and I had transitioned from engineering to a pre-sales role, and they that was my first call. I was headed out with an account executive on, and it was a huge bank chain. And I was nervous, right? And you know, she pulled me aside before we went into the meeting, and she said, "Hey, let me ask you a question. If you went out, if you were going up to a street vendor and you said, hey, you know, I want to buy an ice cream, and they, you know, the guy, you know, flopped the one scoop on the cone and handed it to you, took your money, was real gruff, moved down the next guy, didn't even bother to smile. And right down the street, there's the same kind of ice cream vendor, but this time the experience goes like this. You know, he puts the scoop of ice cream on, he's smiling, he's asking how your day is, you know, what do you do for a living? He's engaging you. He gives you an extra scoop of ice cream and hands it to you, and you have this great experience. She said, who would you buy from? And I said, well, of course you'd go to the guy with the 2 scoops. And she goes, that's all I want you to do when you go in here is just think about giving these folks the extra scoop every time you're in front of them. And so that literally stuck with me my entire career to the point where I actually put it in the book. So the extra scoop really is, we go back to that point where, you know, so few of the providers out there, the partners, whether it's the services or products, are really thinking about how we can invest and help these partners grow. That, I would say, in this case, is what big extra scoop would be, right? Because there's a lot of really intelligent, smart products and services out there that can be provided to our customer base, right? But you know, we can't carry around 300 clubs. We can't have line cards that are like an encyclopedia, right? So we have to, in my case anyway, have to be very choosy about who you choose to partner with. And I'm looking for that extra scoop, and I would dare say that most are. If you get a phone call that says, here's kind of maybe a more practical extra scoop example. Hey, you know, we've got this great service that, you know, would be a great fit for your product base or for your customer base. Well, okay. How do you provide lead and demand gen? Do you work on, you know, strategic campaigns together? Right? Well, no, we don't do that, but you're going to love our product. Or you get a call from a similar service provider who calls and says, hey, we've got a great product. It'll be great for your customer base. I'm going to help you get the first 10 customers. Huge. Which one would you go with, right? So, you know, you kind of see that's a good illustration of what an extra scoop would be in this particular discussion.
Using that as an example of the extra scoop, where you'd go with somebody to say, well, I'm going to help you get your first 10 customers. But it's not just about just getting you 10 customers, right? It's getting you the 10 right customers that will want to use your other services as well, and not just be the reseller model of I've sold 10 licenses for X widget, X piece of software, X cloud thing. It's what's the value to you as an MSP is all the additional services. So finding those right 10 customers, what do you wish they knew about you to help you when they're on the offensive to land you, to know that you're the right fit and they're the right fit for you?
Yeah, and certainly there's, you know, it's not just any 10 customers. I mean, one would think, you know, they're reaching out because they've done a little homework and said, hey, these guys look like they'd be a great fit. So I think there would be, you know, well, certainly there would have to be a discovery, you know, discussion about, you know, again, that strategic discussion around, you know, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's what's important to us, here's what we are truly after as a service provider. Here's our typical verticals that we do very, very well in that we could really help you in. Those are the kinds of things that we would have to be talking together. You're right. I mean, certainly a managed services provider is not, I wouldn't say this, you know, exceptionally. I would say that, you know, there are some that are very focused on, hey, we just specialize in disaster recovery, or we specialize in hosting with Azure or something like that. But again, the vast majority of managed service providers, they are looking for that, you know, that relationship where they are truly the IT department in our case. And so that'd be an important thing to understand. We're not looking to build a whole different, product line or service line, if you will, on the P&L to just sell a widget, to 10 new customers. That it has to strategically fit into our tech stack.
I think we've touched on this, but they're asking it a little bit different way, John. So
Okay.
I would just want to make sure that we've covered it in a way. When vendors are recruiting you, do you feel like they're mostly talking at you and not listening and don't really know your business? And how do you recommend vendors do better at that? We just touched on that a bit, but they're asking a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, I think that I do think that you get a lot of the. It would be unfair for me to characterize those 7 to 10 reach outs a week to be all this way, but there is a good percentage of them that are kind of talking at you, right? I must get 3 marketing houses that want us to partner with them to do the web design as an example, and they're all talking at you. How can they do it better? It would be alluding to that end-to-end experience. I think is if you are reaching out to try to establish a relationship, first thing you want to do is demonstrate value. I mean, that's just the rule of thumb that you hear on everything. If you're reaching out on LinkedIn, if you're making a phone call, if you're sending an introductory email, here's how we provide value to you. If this sounds like it is of value to you, and you'd like to call, let's get on a call and talk and explore more. Here's my Calendly link, and pick a time that works for you, right? So I think you have to demonstrate value. That's what we're all taught, and that's what so many, I think, fail to do is demonstrate that. There are those that do. There really are, and we got started working with one recently, and that's all they talked about was here's the value we bring to the table, and here's exactly how this can be positioned, and all these other things. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I will get on a call with you. And we ended up signing with them, and we had a customer literally within the first week. And we just now rolled that out, and they're helping us. They made their marketing officer available to us, and we just rolled out, a special, just one, short period of time, a special for our customers to get involved with it. And our next phase is to, go out and start, working cold leads with it. So, yeah, I mean, it's really, I know I took that down, I went down a rabbit hole there, but the, just demonstrating what the value you bring to the table. And I can't say loud enough, that value can't be, we have marketing material you can put your logo on. That's no value. Okay. So
last month, we did another webinar in this series with Janet Shines. And one of the things that we talked about was the social selling model. Changing the way the channel helps the partner find clients, keep clients, and communicate with clients so that they become lead magnets, that the conversation is coming to them, that they're entering the conversation in a different way. A number of questions have come up around lead gen, about demand gen. Are you seeing a difference in the way that you need to communicate to bring on new clients? And would it be helpful for your channel partners from the vendor side to have new ways of engaging other than cold calling, dialing up, buying lists, that kind of stuff? Are you seeing a morphing, especially within this past year, of the communication methods?
Yeah, wow. I wouldn't even have thought to ask that. Well, you are great at this, because I wouldn't have thought about talking about that. But honestly, the answer is absolutely. Practical examples, right? We had for the longest time and forever, cold calling worked, right? And it still does. But the problem is the efficiency of cold calling has dropped way down, right? So where it maybe used to take 150 dials to get an appointment, it was taking upwards of 800 and 900 dials to get an appointment. And all of a sudden you're spending an awful lot of money to get one appointment, right? And so we certainly have shifted to more of a holistic marketing strategy. And in fact, this year, where in years past, our number one source of new customers was cold calling. Last year, it was 50-50 with SEO and social and cold calling, and this year we're 3 times the amount. Again, through SEO and social media marketing it's 3 times the number of customers we've gotten. So the answer to your question, empirically, is absolutely. And here again, this is something that the vast majority of providers that the channel partners are trying to get to sell their product, the vast majority of them aren't doing it, right? They're not good at it. They don't know how. So, hey, what an easy way to say, here's some value we provide to you. We're going to, give you, and I'm just making stuff up as I go here, but we're going to give you blog content that you can reuse. We're going to give you, email materials that you can send out. We're going to, a lot of them have campaigns in a box, but they do have, they're missing on some of the other areas of social media. So I would say that there's an opportunity there to help, particularly MSPs. And I know there's probably VARs out there that's kind of in a little bit of a different
Right.
animal, but I was speaking for MSPs everywhere. That's definitely an opportunity to help them out, because they don't understand it, not good at it, don't have time for it, and won't make the investment. So that's a real area that they can help.
Okay, that was an interesting, won't make the investment, which is the perfect feed. And I did not plant this question. It literally just popped up moments before you said that statement. Does John have a marketing team that can own and run campaigns, or does he expect vendor partners to do that for him? Who does what?
Great question. The answer in my case is yes. You won't always find that. Again, they don't. That's an investment that there's a blind spot there for many MSPs, and that's why so many of them are under 5 employees typically, and they don't ever escape that. They don't reach escape velocity from that area. So because they don't understand what that investment can do to help them. Now, I will say that I mentioned this hosting partner earlier with the backup disaster recovery campaign. They literally did everything except the dialing part. They did the email newsletter to the list. The email to the list. They did the design the material. They send it direct mail. All we had to do was, okay, the mail went out, on Thursday, start dialing and follow up on everything. So in that case, they did it all. It was a $10,000 campaign that they put together to a list of 300 people right here in our market, and they even had the list, the mid-market list that they sent it to. So, in our case today, we would be able to contribute much more, than we did back at that point. So I do think that'd be hard to find, though, is to have, find a lot of partners that can execute the campaigns on their own.
Do you consider yourself savvy at lead gen or customer conversations on social media?
Savvy. I think that we are continuing to grow in that area, is what I would say. For the longest time, that was one of those things that, it was tough to get, to be consistent at, right? Until we really started investing in it. So, I think certainly we're continuing to learn, and that's an evolving space, by the way. But I can tell you this: we've tried just about everything once. So through the school of hard knocks, we've learned some things. And we continue to. I may not be the average MSP owner, but we continue to push the envelope, and we're now trying to grow a Facebook presence. For the longest time, that was like, what are you doing that for? Your customers aren't there. But I don't think that's true anymore. And so we continue to experiment in those areas, because I do think that in order to really have a good sales machine, you have to have all of those different facets working together, not just be a one-trick pony.
One last question that has come in with the amount of time we have left is, do you in your organization have a playbook for your interactions with the vendors? Have you ever written down what you need a vendor to do and given it to them with what expectations are from either side?
I mean, the short answer is no, I have not done that, but that's an intriguing idea. To have a playbook together to say, hey, that'd be the easier way to do it. If you get a call, say, hey, here's the playbook. If y'all can commit to this, we'll have another conversation. That's an intriguing idea. I have not done that.
Okay, and this one just slipped in. Are MSPs generally willing to share a customer list for cross-selling to help them market our services?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. We certainly are, and I don't know why they wouldn't be, right? Maybe there's no reason they couldn't. If they're now, I could see them protecting the customer component there, and remember now, you're only talking, and with some people, it may be as little as 10 to 15 customers, right? So you're not talking about a big number, so that's not really a list, right? So I could see them protecting their customer list, but certainly the list that they've been working from a lead gen perspective, why wouldn't they be willing to? Especially, again, if it's a true partnership, right? If it's, hey, here's what we're going to do together. We're going to get a fresh, 1,000 names or 1,000 new companies, and we're going to bring those to the table. You bring us your 5,000 that you have or 2,000 you have. We're going to put them all together. And so we'll inject some new ones in there, and we're going to, we'll hammer this together. There's no reason they shouldn't be. I would think that would be a red flag for the partner themselves.
Okay. And there would have to be a trust to know that
exactly
the company wouldn't be trying to go around you to the client list that you've just shared out.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Last thought you'd like to share with everybody, John, around the extra scoop around customer service about these partner relationships that for you are what really need to be seen to make the relationship a valuable one from both sides?
Yeah, we've covered an awful lot. So,
yeah, we have.
I would say, I really, when you're looking for partners, that's different than a reseller, right? And you've touched on this, Laura. It's if you're truly looking for a partner, you got to understand what that means to be a true partner. And it's not just somebody that puts the club in the bag and that's the end of the day, right? It's the expectation is you'll find a few places to sell it. A true partnership is one that's arm in arm, working together in an effort to generate revenue and a great experience for everybody in the circle.
Okay. And I know that you've seen data that we've plumbed, that SaaSMAX PartnerOptimizer has plumbed on your own business and website and the different things that come up. And anybody on the webinar, you've seen the slide deck showing you some examples of what PartnerOptimizer can provide to you. And we just want to offer to everybody out there today, we're going to enhance your ideal reseller partner profile by sharing data-driven insights for you on 20 of your partners. So we will actually show you how data can make a difference. Just like John's been talking about all along, there are needs. There are things that they want that you're not doing, and it's probably because you don't even know what they want, which is why we do this series, because the data can make all the difference in your business. It's just knowing who people are, MSPs, when you pick up that phone and you reach out to them or the email, making sure that they are, as John has said, the right partner. You're not one of 50,000 that are hitting them. You're the right ones that are hitting them. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And John, thank you so much for being here. And I highly recommend John's book. We here at SaaSMAX love his book, and we're always about the extra scoop. And John, I need to get another autographed copy because mine is missing. And SaaSMAX is doing a bunch of stuff, but I personally, for one of the people that was on the webinar today, I am giving away an autographed copy of this book from John. John, I'll let you know the name that we picked randomly, and I will personally send you the money because I personally think that this book is important for everybody out there. With the conversation we had, that extra scoop for you is getting the right vendors, getting the right partners from the vendor side to help them meet their client needs. And we here at SaaSMAX Partner Optimizers want to help you do that. So thank you everybody for being here. And John, thank you so much as always. I know that you've got an insane day going on.
Well, hey, I always have time for you, Laura. Thank you so much for having me on, and I do appreciate everybody that attended.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.